Yeah.
Ba-da-ba-ba-boo. Wait, I got to do the theme songs again. I haven't been doing that. Remember? Okay.
You had a whole day. Go.
Thanksgiving.
Very
racist holiday. What are you doing?
I always stay here.
Oh, really?
Because flights are so expensive back home. You know, it's like the biggest travel day of the year.
Yes, it is. It's a nightmare.
And now with like the LAX like transit,
right.
You know, you have to get in the damn bus and go to. I stay here.
No offense, but I picture your family cooking very bland turkey. Do you have flavoring in your food?
My family doesn't cook their food.
Oh, they order it?
No, my grandmother has help cook it.
Okay, well then it might taste good.
It does. It actually does.
Right. So the holiday of Thanksgiving is founded on evil white men coming to this country and take. No, but I want to learn about it. Do you know anything about the history?
I mean, a little bit, but I don't think I should speak on it. I mean, it's more, you know, people sitting down to break bread about when we took our land
Took our land, huh? See how you are? See, I'm half Jewish, but I'm also half Scottish, English, Irish. So half of me is a colonial, horrible person.
There you go.
The other half is a victim because I'm Jewish.
Where do you identify?
I'm right in the middle. That's why I could sympathize. I understand when people say like, "Oh, the white man." It's like it's true. The white man's the devil. But
well, the pendulum swings.
Does it?
Yeah.
Which way?
I don't know. It's just however you're feeling that. I mean, I think you're an empath, so I think that you definitely like your Judaism.
I'm not educated at all on Judaism. I just know that I can play the victim. It's an easy way out of everything. Like, oh well, I'm Jewish, so my people have had it the worst.
I can be like, I'm a woman. Hell.
Oh, that's called. Oh yeah, why not? Because nowadays, because of women's power and stuff.
Yeah,
right.
It's a thing.
Did you have racist family members like deep in the trees?
I mean,
like in the in the woods, like way deep in the North Carolina woods.
The mountains?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I think they were in the city.
Oh, really? The racism was in the city?
Yes.
What city?
I mean, it was pretty open. Winston-Salem.
Oh, Winston-Salem's had a high racism rate.
It's Winston-Salem.
Oh, Winston-Salem, yeah.
There's a dash in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I felt when I went to...
They don't consider themselves racist, but I think that some of the things maybe they say and do is skewing a little bit like, no.
Yeah, it's interesting. You go to the South and it's still kind of out on the table. It still exists out there.
Right.
I'm from San Francisco. It couldn't be a more open-minded place of non-racism, sexism, homophobia.
It's still, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. It still happens. People are very confused by it, like who voted for Trump or whatever. I'm like, drive around like rural parts of the South.
Yeah.
They have the signs and the stickers on their cars.
Yeah, I think right now what's going on with, how do you feel about, I'm not educated on politics at all, but what it feels like is that the country is divided because it's
Correct.
Trump. And if you're on Trump's side, you're a racist. And if you're not, you're an open-minded, forward-thinking person. It seems very down the line. But then there's also nuances. It's either far left or far right.
Correct.
And I don't think that every Trump supporter is necessarily a racist, but it's so easy to just put that stigma on them and say, oh, you support Trump, that means you support the wall and that you're racist and homophobic and sexist. But I don't think it's that black and white.
It's not. I mean, there were two people to vote for.
And one of them was a cackling hen. I think they're all bad.
All politicians are bad. I feel like it's a little toxic.
I'm not falling for it. It's all bullshit, and it's just a matter of which bullshit you want to go down, and that's why I deleted the news off my app.
So now you're even less educated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true.
Wait, do you vote in primary elections around Los Angeles?
I'm white. I don't talk about what I vote. Okay, that's a white.
No, I didn't ask you what you voted. I asked you.
Yes, I voted.
Did you get a sticker?
I voted on the
props.
Yeah, I voted on the props. Which for the daylight savings times to be daylight saving
That's your
time.
I feel like you should vote against homelessness in LA.
I know that would be if it was only that easy. We have a great guest today. Citizen Cope. He's an old friend of mine from back in the New York days. Did you do any listening to his music? He's a very talented.
I did.
Did you? What songs did you like?
It's his. I guess
Sideways. I played you yesterday. That's sort of that's the first one on iTunes. I think that's the big song. But he had an album in 2002. Yeah, he had an album in 2002 that got a lot of rotation with me and my friends. I'd love to bring him out and talk with him. And you could join us, please.
Yes.
All right, let's bring him on here. Cope, come on in. What's up, Clarence?
How are you?
We can say Clarence.
Yeah.
Because your album was called the Clarence Greenwood Project. So
Clarence Greenwood Recordings.
Recordings, that's what it was. That was the album in 2002.
That was in 2004. Citizen Cope came out in 2002.
Oh, so was the name Citizen Cope after Or that you were already called, but the album was called.
Yeah, it was just a self-titled album. The first record
Right.
was just Citizen Cope.
Right.
Just sometimes your first record, they just I couldn't figure out what to name it. So.
And back then, that's when albums sold a lot. That was like before the internet thing in like mid 2000s, where it became less record sales, more MySpace shit.
Yeah,
like that.
they used to sell a lot, except that record didn't.
Oh, it didn't? Really? That record didn't?
The first one didn't sell. It sold very poorly.
Okay.
And it was kind of a big disappointment. But it ended up over the years, has sold over the years. So it's actually turned out to be quite a pretty good seller. I had Let the Drummer Kick on that record, and that single went over gold, and the record's probably sold 250,000 records.
Which is a lot. That's a lot of records. Now, gold is 500,000.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Platinum's 1 million in America.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, see, that's why you're here to learn.
There we go.
And that album you came, I feel like Let the Drummer Kick was on a TV show or a movie. How did it get out there back then? I remember it was on something.
Well, I think that whole record just got kind of overlooked a little bit, and then when the Clarence Greenwood recordings came out, people went back to that record. But Let the Drummer Kick was, I think, on the movie Accepted, and it was also, there was a commercial.
That's
what
what
it was.
An
Acura commercial.
That's what it was. I saw it on a commercial, and that's when you're like, "Oh, my boy made it." That commercial money's good too. You get paid a little. Those little side checks for TV shows. When they run your stuff on, movies, TV shows, and commercials, you get a nice little fee because it's hard to make.
My dick has never been in a commercial.
No, but my dick was on Family Guy, and so that did well, and they just beeped it out. Yep. So
there you go.
Yeah. Now you produce and write a lot of your music.
Yes.
All of it.
Yep.
And then you have a band play your music that you write, and you go either acoustic on tour or with the band.
Right. So usually, I got into it to write and produce. So I never thought of myself that I was gonna be an artist, and then I didn't really have an artist to write and produce for, and the demos kind of were very personal, and ended up, I was like, I guess I'll just become an artist. But I was always not really thinking I was going to go on stage and perform or any of that kind of stuff.
So you never had, this is an ongoing theme on the show, you never really had the intention of it being, this sort of happened by accident, or because you were writing music, but you never wanted to be the center of attention?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be able to perform or anything, because I was pretty much of a recluse for a while. So I spent a lot of time by myself writing, and I think I just enjoyed writing, and I had a little 4-track, I enjoyed that. And I got a drum machine and started to learn how to sample and do drum machine stuff. And then I went back and, picked up my guitar and started plucking out some little string, very basic stuff, and got into the art of songwriting and storytelling through that, through that medium. And it became something that kind of I felt the goosebumps, and something felt really right about it. And it wasn't anything that was particularly complex or difficult but to play or anything, but it was just something that came natural as far as that side of it.
Yeah, the goosebumps are an interesting thing when a song could give you the goosebumps. Like I remember watching that recently on one of these shows where they have a bunch of songwriters around it, and one of the guys said, "Look, goosebumps, that's how I know it's a hit."
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing how that will trigger something in your brain to actually raise the hairs on your arm or whatever to make you feel something. I don't know if you could go into it saying, "All right, I'm going to make a song that's going to make them feel goosebumps." That kind of just happens.
Yeah,
right?
I think after you're sitting there strumming the guitar for a while and you're doing a couple songs or a lot of songs that are kind of getting you in that direction, but they haven't touched you there yet, and then all of a sudden you feel something spiritual, and then the tears might come out, and wow, this is something that hasn't happened yet, and then you feel that emotion.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I don't feel that when me and Mickey Avalon are writing songs about partying, but I could imagine what that's like. Now, you grew up in Washington, D.C., and then moved to New York, which is when I met you in the mid-'90s?
Late 90s, but I think we met prior to that, maybe in the mid-'90s.
Yeah.
Through Ben Rue.
That's right.
Yep.
Shout out to Ben Rue, amazing artist, good friend of mine. He's from D.C. So you guys grew up in D.C. together, and then he moved to New York, and you moved after.
Yep. He moved, I think, in his high school years, but he was early in high school in D.C. as well. We went to the same high school.
And he did graffiti, and you did music back in high school as well, and you guys both came to New York to pursue the arts?
Well, I was more into listening to music back then, and early on I played trumpet in like the 6th grade, but I didn't feel like I had it was going to be something in my life that I was going to do for a living, because the trumpet was an extremely difficult instrument to play.
Yeah.
And I picked up the guitar when I was like 13 and played with some of my friends. We'd play some Neil Young songs and try to do that, but I didn't have a lot of fluidity with playing and playing other people's stuff. So I figured that's not something I was going to do, but I could hold a tune, and I sang a little bit, but then when my voice changed, it was like, no, I'm not going to be a singer. And then I just started writing poetry when I was, I guess, about 18, and the poetry started turning into something where I wasn't thinking about it. It just kind of came on the pages, and I was like, wow, that came out. And I was never particularly very good at anything. I was a good, recreational, basketball player or baseball player or something like that recreationally, but I wasn't particularly fast. I didn't test well. So all these things that that didn't really kind of come together easily.
Yeah.
And then when the poetry came out, I was like, wow, maybe that's something.
Wow, that's cool. Not a lot of cool guys when I think of someone doing poetry, I don't think of like, I think of some European French dude who's almost, too artsy. He's got a manly demeanor, good style.
Very manly, melodic voice.
And his voice, if you notice, I'm sorry to say this in front of you, he's just, the best rappers always sound like, if you just hang out with Too Short or Snoop Dogg, if when they're talking to you, if you just hit record, it sounds like they're rapping. When you talk, you're already there, you have a great voice. When you say your voice changed, what did you mean? You mean when it dropped?
When it dropped, I think I didn't physically grow until my senior year in high school.
Yeah.
So I was always short. My voice, I didn't hit puberty till late. So my voice changed, and I remember getting a solo in the gospel choir when I was in the 9th grade, and I was so scared to sing it because it was such a high part, and everybody that I knew had already, reached puberty, and I was like, I got to sing this super high part, and the teacher, I think, found or thought that I had a decent voice, and I sang the part, but then when my voice changed, I didn't feel like that emotion was coming through anymore, and I wasn't like singing a lot, but I would just sing the songs or this kind of stuff. And when I did the poetry, I had a man very close to me who was my great uncle. Was kind of looked at him as my grandfather, but he was in Texas in a small town. And after my senior year, he called me up and said, I need you down here. I think I'm gonna, I think time is coming. And he'd never asked me for anything, and I spent pretty much every summer in this town with them, and he was like a father figure to me. He was kind of somebody that I, if it was probably the last person on earth that said, jump, and I said, how high?
Right.
And so I went down there, and he passed away, and that's when I started writing the poem. So they were kind of came from somewhat of what's that word when you really cathartic kind of situation, and I had it, when I was looking at him on, checking out before his funeral, I had like this crazy episode where I just cried for like, 2 hours in there. I just all this stuff released, and then I just started writing stuff. So it came somewhat from a dark place. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't necessarily like love poetry.
Right.
It was more trying to figure out, when you get to that age too, you're trying to figure out a lot of things in your life. It's where a lot of like kind of rebellious spirit comes out, because you've been raised to a certain standard or a certain lifestyle, and then you realize that you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
And so that's where the poems came from.
I like it. That came from a real place.
Was anyone else in your family musical, or did they write, or it called to you?
You know, it was strange. My great aunt, who was his wife, when recently we found she left some poems behind. So she actually was writing poetry, but I didn't know that. And she could keep a tune, play a little piano. There wasn't anyone that broke out and said, "Hey, let's jam," or anything like that. They had a piano in their house, and I would tinkle on it sometimes, but it wasn't anything that was ingrained in my upraising.
Well, it sounds like your music. I think I always said when I first got your album, I guess in the early 2000s, the album we were talking about earlier. Is that the
Clarence Greenwood
recordings?
Yeah.
That album I could play for my mom. I could play for my hip hop homies. I could play for a reggae friend who's like a Rasta head. I could play it for a rock and roll homie. It appealed. It was such an interesting mix that I can tell. Oh, he must have grown up listening to hip hop, some reggae, some little country. Like it really sounded like I'd never heard anything like it before. It was a really interesting fusion of all these types of music that I liked that was authentic and didn't feel like contrived. It just felt like he was listening to some hip hop and Bob Marley. Like there's a little of everything. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, listening to a Bob Marley record or John Lennon, the Beatles, listen to a lot of Al Green.
John who? No. Oh, the Beatles. Sorry.
A lot of Al Green, and then when Outkast was making those great records, and Tribe Called Quest, and the records that Dre put out. So it was like from a production side, I was so motivated, inspired by what Dre was doing sonically, what Q-Tip was doing with his records, what Organized Noise was doing with the Outkast records, and what Willie Mitchell, who produced Al Green, I was heavy into that, and also with what George Martin did with the Beatles. So it was like I kind of saw that side of writing from a perspective, and also making a record that sounded cool. So I didn't want to kind of go in. I guess it was probably one of my shortcomings that it wasn't in a category. It wasn't considered rock. It wasn't considered this or that. But all those people could identify with it somehow, because some hip hop people like the drums, or some people that like songwriting, like the storytelling, and this kind of thing.
Was the counterfeit stories were true, right? Was that something you really did? Was that heightened for exaggeration?
Well, no, 200,000. It was actually one of the songs that I got that helped me get my first record deal with Capitol Records. It never came out, and then ended up coming out on the first records with DreamWorks in 2002. And it was a funny story. There was a guy, I used to buy and sell tickets to concert and sporting events.
This is in D.C.?
Yeah, so I'd go to the, it was back before StubHub and all that. If I was smart, I would have started one of those companies. But it was back when it was illegal. You could get arrested for it and spend the night in jail. It was just a misdemeanor kind of thing. But so it was kind of frowned upon, but it was something that I'd always grown up like in sports. So I started going to games and sneaking in, and then I ended up getting tickets and selling them the night of the event. And it turned into a good way to make a living while I was, in high school and post after that. And then I could go home and write songs. And there was one gentleman there that was older and, had a pretty bad drug problem. And
what, you did or he did?
No, he did.
Okay.
He was an older ticket hustler, and his name was George. And one time we were just out there, and I was just like, "Hey, George," because he always talked about how much money he made, but then the next day he would be asking for a loan. Can I get $5 or $10? And he would, oh fuck it, I made $800 last night, and then the next day he would want $5 or $10, and so I said, "George, what's the most money you ever had?" And he said, 200,000. And he said, in counterfeit 50s. It was after the Los Angeles Olympics, and he told this whole story about it. So, years later, George walked out of at Camden Yards in Baltimore, which just opened. He just walked in it, you know, and he walked out in the middle of the street and got hit by a car, and was killed. And I just found the analogy of kind of what comes around goes around. He was always kind of lying to customers and saying, "Oh yeah, I got two, you know, center court down low," and it would be two way apart from each other. So it's like something that, you know, he was just kind of a character that I don't know why I wrote the song about it, but it kind of came about like that, and I used him as the character in the song.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of the stuff you do doesn't come from really overthinking it. Like you just get these downloads, yeah? Like, you know, like you're saying the poetry, like that.
Yeah,
you don't even know why it just happens.
I think there's an element of just sitting in a room and woodshedding. And so when you woodshed as a songwriter, those kind of things have a tendency to come to you. Mm-hmm. And it's not like there is some kind of special subconscious thing that goes on that you tap into, I guess. And I don't think you sit down and write a song about, you know, I always find it interesting when, you know, those people after 9/11 wrote, you know, I'm gonna write a song about 9/11. I just never had that perspective as a songwriter. It was always something that kind of culminated, life experience culminated into this point of sitting down for hours, and then you're like, all right, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
And it never was kind of work to me. It just always just in the sense of spending time with it.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like that's a genuine way to write music, and it seems to be from the heart. And like, you know, when you I feel like when you just overthink something, like 8 p.m. on Saturday, we're gonna go write a hit. Like, it doesn't really work that way. Do you work better alone in a room, or when you say you like come up with these ideas, is it with other songwriters or just you?
It's just usually me by myself on a guitar, or, you know, sometimes when I had the drum machine, but that's usually a little harder when I would write a beat with a drum machine and a piano. Like, for a while, writing verses was difficult in that form. Like, when I did Let the Drummer Kick, I did all the music for it, and then it didn't have the verses. So it was something that was like, I can't figure out what, you know, I did the song called Hurricane Waters like that too, and I couldn't figure out what the verses were. Always writing was something, always helped with the lyrics. Now, you know, I'm getting better at, okay, we can sit in a room if it's for some artist, and I can just do a top line thing or a chorus or something like that.
Do you we talked about this a lot. We both struggled on and off with smoking a lot of weed, fair to say. I recently off the marijuana, and I'm remembering my dreams, and I feel just a little more on point, and I got a little more energy because the weed in my mid-40s fucks me up. And I know you called me the other day out of nowhere, and I was like, "Oh, are you off the weed?" And I could just tell they just had that little spunk in your voice, because I know weed, for me, it's just, well, first of all, the weed's just gotten so strong that it just fucks me up. I would even go get like the low percentage, whatever, but I would still find it just not working for me. But weed worked for me for a very long time. Was weed for you part of the writing process? And then when you don't smoke, is that harder to write? Because that was for me at times.
Well, I think marijuana is like just something beautiful that brings out, you know, just, I kind of think it was something for people. It helped me when I was suffering through the loss of family members and this kind of thing, and also kind of opened me up creatively. But then obviously I'm smoking all day, every day, and it became part of my life. And then, you know, I went out and I didn't smoke, and I got an allergy to it. So I was like sneezing a lot, and I didn't know what the allergy was from, and I left the country where there wasn't any weed, and I wasn't sneezing. And so I was like, oh wow, maybe I'm allergic to my favorite mistress.
Oh man, that's what I always said. I lost my best friend. I don't smoke. I lost my best friend.
Yeah, and so it wasn't even. It was like, wow, you know, this is. I didn't even, because when you smoke all day, you don't really even notice that you are there anything different.
You're just getting by. You're not even getting high. You're just normal.
Yeah, so it's probably, you know, similar to any other drug that's not as difficult, you know, to as harmful as other ones.
Yeah, it's all about your relationship with it, I guess. You know, sometimes you got to take a break and then come back to it. Because I do that. I'll stop for a year, come back to it. It might work for me. It might not. It's like, it's your relationship with it.
Yeah, I was surprised, though, when I did. I had somebody had a vape, and I smoked a little bit. And then I'd been off for a while, and I was surprised how affected I was by it. I was like, started to get a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so that's the problem is that when you stop and then you smoke again, it's not fun. So it's either like you got to be smoking all the time, because once in a while it's not going to work for you because you'll get paranoid. The kind of like, that's exactly what happened to me. You never really were a stoner, right?
No.
Yeah, not your thing. She's a lady of leisure. She likes to drink.
Yeah. Well, that's just like that's what works for me.
Yeah, everything's
I'm like not a bad drunk though. Like,
no, you're a fun drunk. That we met by her being drunk and just making fun of me, sort of, and me bumming cigarettes off her at 4th of July. So
it was a nice time. Wait, have you tried the CBD like Simon?
I haven't. I have not. I haven't. I mean, I actually had. I haven't. I mean, I guess there's some stuff that you put in your coffee or kind of stuff.
You can ingest it in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, there's the oils. I don't want to jinx it, but I got a friend of mine who has a big weed grow, and we want to do a CBD for me, I want to market it like for the distinguished older gentleman who wants to smoke but can't get high all day and still pick up his kids at school.
Tagline.
Yeah, something like that. I'm working on it, but the point is I'm going to do like a CBD line. And that's where I'm at in my life. Yeah, it's the weed, it's gotten a lot stronger too. I mean, we used to smoke a lot back in New York. In those days, there'd be like those weed delivery services. I remember they would just bring some, mid-range, but this weed turned into alien weed. It's too strong for me now.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was times when, especially in D.C., when it was just brown weed. Get on the street with seeds and stuff like that, and then it turned, when I went to New York, there was higher quality, and also there was the mid-range. And I mean, this has all gotten, everybody's learned how to grow it correctly, and.
Yeah. You worked with Sheryl Crow. She asked you to record, is that right?
She covered a song of, she did Sideways, actually.
Oh, she redid it. That's right, I remember that.
And then...
did that obviously lend to helping you sell? People found your song afterwards?
No, that was after the song. Really, Santana, I'd recorded Sideways, and then Carlos Santana heard the song, and he wanted it for his record that was the follow-up to Supernatural. It was a record called Shaman, which was a big record also.
He did a record called Shaman?
Yeah, the album, but he wanted Sideways on it, and I'd already recorded it for my record. And I thought they were going to ask me to re-record it, but he just wanted me to send it to him. And so I went to the studio with him, and he did his guitar part, and they ended up putting it on that album. It was the only song on the record that was like kind of written and produced by one person, because they were trying to find that hit with 3 and 4 songwriters and producers and all that stuff. And luckily he put that on there, and that was kind of a real blessing, because it was on the heels of my first record kind of flopping. And so it kind of took me to the next record. And when I met all the people at his label, which was Arista at the time, I decided to leave the company I was with and go to Arista, because I felt like that the culture there would be more accepting, kind of to something left of center, but still gives you a payoff.
Yeah. What's it like when you get when you found out that Carlos Santana wanted to use your song? What was that phone call, or how did you find out?
Well, I just heard that they liked the song, and then they were going to play it for the record company president, and then play it for Carlos, and he liked it, and his family liked it. So it was it was up in the air until they were about to press it. Essentially, I don't know if they did that for negotiation reasons, but they ended up putting it on the record.
This is back when they actually pressed. Nowadays, they still I mean, obviously now it's all digital. So, well, now what's the difference between a record and an album? A record's one song?
You know what? I've always called a record an LP, which is a whole album, but people call a record just one song. too.
What LP stands for long play?
Yeah.
Is it long play?
Yeah.
Is that what it means?
I guess so.
I don't even know.
It's just terminology.
But no, it's interesting because you'll get record of the year, I think, as the Grammys.
You have vinyl, and then there's record, and then there's a CD, and then, there's... Yeah. But I remember being in Brooklyn, and when that record came out, they had the counterfeit already, and I bought a version of the counterfeit from this lady who walked into a copy shop.
Oh, that's cool.
With a CD.
I remember I had back in the CD burner days. This is the early 2000s, back when there was CD burners before everything went digital and iPods and stuff. And I would burn your CD and just I'd go buy a stack of 10 CDs, burn it at my house, and just give it out to people. Old school, getting it out there, and then it would spread. And there was some friends of mine in Malibu who were these younger kids, and somehow it got lost in translation what your name was, because you'd write, the name on the CD with a marker, and it got blurred. So for years, everybody thought your name in Malibu, all these rich kids, that your name was Copa Freeze, Copa Freeze, Copa Freeze, and they'd always come up and be like, dude, what's up with Copa Freeze? I'm like, who the fuck are you talking about? And I found out years later they were talking about you, and the name was just wrong on the. I thought that was so funny. So to this day, when I see these Malibu kids, I'm like, Copa, it's like an inside joke. And that Malibu kid is Brody Jenner. He's a very famous Jenner. His dad, or now mom, is Kylie Jenner.
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn Jenner. That's the one that's the transgender.
Correct.
Transgender, and we're gonna get Brody on the show actually.
You are.
Yeah, so it'll come full circle.
I spent New Year's with Brody last year.
Did you?
And his wife, Caitlyn.
His wife, Caitlyn, or his mom?
No, his ex-wife, Caitlyn.
Wait, Caitlyn Jenner is his dad?
Also was his wife.
Oh, there's another Caitlyn? Wait, he married his mom?
No, her name was... This is a whole story. He married Caitlyn Carter.
Oh.
And then she became Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh, that was his girlfriend's name, just coincidentally from his mom.
Before Bruce transitioned.
Got it. Okay.
What an aside.
Yeah. Anyway, so Copa Freeze is how he's known in Malibu.
Well, you seem very unaffected. Have you ever had a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, met someone and you freaked out, or you had a moment where you're like, how did this happen? Or you just, it's always been a gift and you just knew?
No, I don't think I didn't have a inner peace of knowing that it was going to happen. It was always kind of like, oh shit, there's always been there's always been those points of difficult times of oh man, this happened, I got dropped from the label, or I'm gonna have to write a bunch of new songs, or this kind of thing, or the record. So I wasn't ever used to getting something where it was just something great happen. That Santana thing was one of those things where it was like, wow, this is not that difficult as far as I don't have to re-record the song, I don't have to. And when I made the Clarence Greenwood recordings, it was a situation where I didn't work with a producer or anything, so it's just I had to give a lot of money to DreamWorks, which was a company, to leave their company. So I had a limited budget, and I just spent a lot of time in the studio and made the record, and it kind of felt like, okay, this is cool. I'm cool with it, and that wasn't a moment of and then when the record came out, it took years and years. Finally, it's gone gold. So, but it took years and years to happen, and there wasn't like a radio, commercial smash hit. So it was never. I was always kind of lucky in the sense that I never had to rely on, the mainstream to kind of get to people. It was always a word of mouth thing, and Simon was nice enough to press the record up, and I think one of the first things I did was, when that record came out, which get them to give me a bunch of CDs, and I gave them out to people. So that was the thing. I kind of got sick of people, hey, when's the record coming out? Go to the store. So I would just give it to them, and if people liked it, I'd give them a box of them, and that they would give them to their friends. Bodega in Brooklyn, shout out to Ralph. Would give him boxes, and he would give it to customers. So it kind of came out like that, and it never charted, and it never hit radio in a big way. Luckily got some great licenses, and so it was something that there was like a natural progression to it. It never happened where there was this nuclear kind of thing.
side thing I just thought of, just remembered something. You came to LA once. I was living in Laurel Canyon. You came, I think you were working in LA, and you hit me up and you're like, hey, I need to find some weed.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, come through. And I gave you like a half ounce of weed or something. Right. And then you tried to give me money. I was like, no, come on, man. You've entertained me and my friends with your music for so long. I want to get this for you. And I remember you being really thankful. You're like, cool. Cut to maybe a couple years later, we see you on an airplane. Me and my family is flying to Kauai, and you're on the airplane. Yeah. And was it on the way out there or on the way back?
I think it was the way out there.
That's right. So we see you on the flight to Kauai, introduce you to my family, my brother, and I say, oh, my brother's a chef, my little brother. And you're like, oh, I'm looking for a chef. And then I remember during the trip in Kauai, you said to me, I said, my brother wants to come cook for you. And you go, he's hired. And I said, well, what he hasn't cooked for you yet. And you go, you said, you gave me weed when I needed it. I trust it. I don't know why I'm going with it. He got the job. And I remember thinking, oh shit, now the pressure's on. My brother better like deliver. And he got all nervous and pumped. He was like 20 years old. Yeah. Then he went on tour with you for years. And became his chef. And then he also was Diddy's personal chef. And he was, now he works with Chef Ludo at this famous restaurant called Tuamek. And he's got a Michelin star.
Good.
But working with Clarence was this sort of his first sort of big, cool, got to go on tour. And you told me once, you go, if I could put your brother, like somehow capture him in a bottle, I'd be a millionaire, because he's a special.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the joys of being somebody that was able to employ people to see his growth. And I knew that, being in New York, that you knew what a good food was, and I could tell by the interaction between you two, you wouldn't try to throw your brother on somebody that he wasn't ready for. And it was interesting because he came out on Alex came out on one of the first shows and that he was working on, and he was going to get kind of taught by the chef that I had, and the chef that I had worked for like Bruce Springsteen and all these other people through this catering company called Dega, and they provide usually bigger people. We were playing some big theaters, but also some small clubs. So we'd have to makeshift a kitchen and just do whatever. And the chef goes out and goes to the local market and gets the food and kind of makes a soup for lunch and then a dinner and maybe after show plate or something. And the first day, Chef Cookie was like, I think this kid can do it. Like, he was a hard worker and everything, and he kind of understood the process, which is not easy. You have to make a kitchen in every city you deal with. You have to go and shop in every city, and not just kind of, you can't wing it. It's a pretty intense thing. And a couple of days into it, I saw your brother, and I was like, yeah, man, baptism by fire.
Jumped him right into it.
But he
did good.
He was amazing. Everyone loved him, and he was so nice to people that, would be working at the club. He would cook for people that were just backstage security or whatever, or just working at the club, and give them an extra plate. And it was a giving person. Homeless person would be out there. He'd give them a plate of food. It's just, you could tell he was going places. Yeah,
and he did. And now he just had a baby, and he's got a Michelin star at 30 years old. He's chilling. That was about 10 years ago, I think. That's crazy.
And it's amazing to be able to see somebody grow into that, and then somebody that it makes me feel good.
Yeah, no, thank you for giving him the opportunity. That really was the trajectory for his confidence in him, getting to go on the road, and then it was all downhill from there. Or,
uphill.
No, uphill means it's hard.
No.
Yeah, it's down. It's all down.
That's
no,
right.
it was nothing but up from there.
There you go.
And then one day he'll be going down. I don't know. He'll be going down on a hill.
Don't jinx him.
No, I wouldn't say one day he'll go over the. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying?
I do.
And there was something else I was just going to ask you about.
That story's crazy. How was Hawaii? Did y'all see each other there?
Yeah, we hung out. We went to a bar one day, and I remember it was funny because
How was the weed in Hawaii? No.
I'm sure it was good. I don't remember.
I think a lot of times at the time they had so many helicopters. I mean, there was always good weed in Hawaii. I guess.
There's my boy opened the first cannabis club in Kauai.
Really?
Yeah, Burner. Okay. You know Burner? He's like a famous rapper / weed entrepreneur guy. Anyway, he opened up the first Kauai weed shop. My memory's so bad from all those years of weed. There was something else I was going to ask you. It'll come. I'll remember on my drive home later. What are you working on now? Any new stuff?
Well, I just put out a record last year. Well, actually February, so this year, and it's called Heroin and Helicopters, and I got the name from when I first met Carlos Santana. He said, "Watch out for the 2 H's." And I was like, "What are the 2 H's?" And he's like, "Heroin and helicopters."
Like don't do dope and don't get in a helicopter like Bill Graham or something?
He's like, exactly. Wow. That's where he got the helicopter thing from Bill Graham and Stevie Ray Vaughan. And the heroin thing, obviously.
Everyone.
So, I did this, and I just recently went, I spent a lot of time on that. And
on heroin?
On heroin helicopters. And the record... It's hard to kind of put a record out now and get it heard without a campaign. Mm-hmm. So it's different times now. So
I'll burn some CDs and hand them out.
Yeah.
Old school.
And then everybody be like, "Well, what do I do with this?"
Yeah, it's over, right?
It's
no
all
more CDs.
over.
Well, I got one in my car, but it's rare to use them. Yeah, it's a whole digital age. So sorry, go on.
So I just went recently, last couple weeks, and just went in my house and just recorded an acoustic album with a guitar and a couple mics up, and I'm gonna put that out early next year.
At Venice, at the house, you've been recording?
Yeah.
You have a studio in the house?
Not really. I just bought a couple mics and did it like I'm, like I write songs.
Back to basics.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was telling you the same thing. I was just like back to just making beats on a little keyboard in my studio, which is now in my kitchen because I live in a little apartment now. And you've been up to my house. I used to have the fat studio and the big house in the hills. And now I'm making beats in the kitchen. And there's something humbling and grounding about bringing it back to the essence, of like, sometimes you get too comfortable when you're recording like a...
It's really cooking it up.
Yeah, for literally, exactly, cooking up beats. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes if it's too overproduced and over comfortable, I think it loses that edge that you kind of need to just, I don't know. For me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's. I used to always start stuff at home, and then it became something like just wanted to be in a studio and enjoy that creativity as well.
I'm working on a kids album right now because I wanted to go the opposite of Dirt Nasty. So I did a character called Squeaky Clean. So opposite, and it's all like moral, correct songs for children. To do your homework, eat your vegetables, Yeah. I want to play it maybe sometime back on the West Side. I'll play it for you because what it needs is like, I just need a little live, like just seriously, if you came by for half an hour and laid like a little guitar riff over one of these songs because they sound very digital and kind of, they just need a little soul. All right. I was going to have my boy Benji Hughes come, but he's not in town. I think I told you about Benji Hughes. He's like you. He's like just a genius songwriter, singer from North Carolina boy. Yeah, he's incredible. And he was really into it. He loved the album, so he wanted to. But maybe it'd be cool. I just want to get a couple real musicians like you to just throw in a little, because I don't know how to play instruments for real.
I'd love to.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Just come have fun,
Yeah.
We'll smoke some CBD weed and not get stoned.
He can introduce you.
Yeah.
You're touring right now, though, aren't you?
I'm doing some dates between Christmas and New Year's on the East Coast, like outside of New York at the Capitol Theater, Wellmont Theater in Jersey, Baltimore, Rams Head Live, and then doing something on New Year's in Philadelphia.
Nice. A little Northeast run. No, I remember what I was going to say before. I remember going to his shows. The funniest thing is when you go to a Cope show, you'll see all these women come to his show, and because his music, it really touches. Women seem to respond well to like his kind of music. And you'll see all these girls just kind of gawking at him, and you'll see their boyfriends. Me and Alex would talk about this, and you'd see their boyfriends kind of like holding them from behind, like almost like not holding them back, but like locking them down because they feel that they're like
protection.
coming. Yeah, it's a powerful thing to be on stage, like singing that kind of music with it was just interesting to watch. Yeah, I've seen that a few times. I remember here in LA, wherever else I've seen you play, and yeah, that's an interesting thing to watch. It's a powerful thing. What's that like? You do? I mean, is it hard not to feel like a god up there when you get that reaction? I mean, how do you separate? Because you're a real dude. It's not like you're gonna get caught up.
Yeah, I never really felt comfortable on stage, so I never had that feeling of kind of letting it go. So I've been working on that over the years.
Even still, after all these years, still a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, still kind of still have those moments, and never had, I think now what's great about performing live is that you get to kind of learn every show. You know, as many as it's been, you're still learning something. So it's trying to let the people in and realize that people are there to see you, and it's not like, oh, I got to prove something, because it was always, for a while, it was like, I got to prove something, and it wasn't really about. I mean, you would notice like some pretty women and all that kind of stuff, but you wouldn't also. I never felt, because I also saw so many performers kind of, because you can manipulate a crowd pretty easily if you're up there. And I kind of wanted to just connect to the song and have everyone connect that way.
Yeah, that's what I saw at your shows. That's what it seemed like. You're not the kind of guy to be like, everyone having a good time. Like, that's not your vibe.
And jump and do the pogo. Yeah. But I think there's people that really are great entertainers, and I never felt like I was a great entertainer. I was just trying to get to that connection part.
Well, I think that's what makes you a great entertainer, is you can just sit there on a stool and do your thing, and less is more. You don't have to compensate by like running around and overdoing it, because the music is what does that. So I don't feel you have to. So for you, that's good for you, because you don't have to like run around and be a dancing monkey just to entertain. Like the music brings you in, because it's like less is more. You're not some big performer. Even when you got the band, it was never like a big performance. And you preferred the acoustic tours, obviously, because not that you don't want to be with the crew, but because how much easier is it to travel light with just like, a lot less human beings, and it's just obviously saves you money. And the acoustic tours you like?
Well, I like those also too, because it's a different dynamic. There's also a different way and it feels like a different performance. And then you end up missing like the energy of having a band or camaraderie or whatever. But I think that they both have their special place.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that many acoustic runs recently, so I'm going to do an acoustic run in January, February, and then do a band thing in April, May, and then probably go acoustic for a while.
Where's your favorite place that you've ever played, or a place like a city you always go to? You're like, all right, Portland, or what city? For me, it's Portland. What's your favorite place? Or one of them?
I love New York.
Yeah.
Seattle, Austin, Texas.
Austin's great. Yeah, Austin's
but Brazil, I'm going in January, which is going to be amazing.
Have you been yet?
I've been there a couple times. So
it's a great place.
I haven't been to where I'm going, which is Florianopolis.
I've never been there either.
Yeah,
I want to check that place out. I heard that's a vibe out there. It's like it's a little island on the south, just north of Uruguay. It's a little party island kind of vibe. I think I've never been.
That's your vibe.
Yeah, and I guess for your kind of music, obviously Portuguese. I mean, everyone in the world, they understand like English music, American English music. So you could go to a place like Brazil, and it doesn't matter that you don't speak Portuguese, because your music is kind of, I don't want to say world music, but you could play your stuff in almost any country.
Yeah, I was surprised that they understood. Well, because it's so lyric driven that they were singing "Bullet in a Target" one time. I was in Sao Paulo or something, and
that's cool.
Like, wow, this is weird, but
they like their bullets in Rio. Yeah. Can I say that?
Yeah.
It's a very violent city. That's funny, man. Yeah, I always liked your music too, because it was a combination of like real soulful, mature, but it was also gangster. There's like a gangster element to it, talking about like, you're doing something special. There's not too many other artists out there like you. I don't even think anyone could try to like do what you do. It's a real unique blend. I want you to do your homework and start listening to a lot more of his music. You're welcome. I'm gonna burn you a CD.
I know, but do you ever get tired of playing a song, or do you have a favorite song you like to play, or it changes depending on mood?
I think it changes. Some songs go in and out of favor. Some songs are just easier to play in the sense that they're just more natural. And then there's some songs that but I don't get tired of it, because I'm trying to pretty much, there's a sense of owing it to the song to give it the, not just put it on autopilot. Yeah. So if you go to a song, you're trying to put some energy into it and give some love to it, and so it's not just like that, because that's when it starts to decline substantially.
Now, do you think way down the line, not immediate future, do you see? Would you ever do anything else besides music? Is there anything maybe besides even producing and writing for somebody else? What else would you ever want to do? You're out here in LA now, like scoring for movies. Is that any? Like, there's so many things I feel you could do.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I'm definitely looking at the exit plan as far as performing, because I think that's just, it's been a beautiful thing, but I just don't want to continue it. I have a daughter, and I don't want to continue doing it forever, and or at least take a hiatus. I want to do some traveling as far as getting to see the rest of the world, and also just, I always looked at music as maybe, I can have a better life or a better lifestyle and this kind of stuff, and recently kind of came to the conclusion that it was really about personal growth, and it wasn't about or me being into this was to learn something personally and spiritually, and not necessarily and that's where it started essentially. But then you lose sight of that when all the other stuff comes in, and well, now I can make a living doing it, and then, okay, well, now I have to do this or I have to do that, and kind of maybe taking some of the things. I always wanted to write some stuff, like maybe a book or something like that, but not about my life, but just something creative. And being on the road is not the most creative place to be. So it's
exhausting.
It's kind of just looking for something else, and to kind of find an exit strategy. But it's like the mafia. Once you get in it, it's hard to get out.
Right. And he said, when he just said personal and spiritual growth, it's funny because if I was to say that, it would sound kind of like douchey. When he says it, it sounds like beautiful. And
everything sounds like poetry.
I know he's that dude. Because I'm always talking about that stuff. I'm like doing, I'm going through that weird midlife existential time in, life where it's like I'm
crisis.
Doing. Yeah. Oh, definitely crisis. And do it, sitting in the weirdness and the pain and the weird changes that are happening, and physically become, in my mind I'm still 22, but then I go play basketball and I'm reminded real quick that I'm 45 when I can't get a rebound in front of a kid half my age.
You become the guy that's not very good.
That's me. And it just physically
definitely me.
My mind will go, I got this rebound, and a kid half my age snatches it. I'm like, now I'm the old guy on the court. Fuck.
Yeah. Now I'm the guy like that. Nobody wants to pass to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And just because you're just pulling outside jumpers because you don't want to take it to the hole. We should play ball. I saw you there the other day. Let's run, because is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Yeah.
So you sacrificed today's game for me?
Yep.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you. Hey, thank you for coming by, dude. That was awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. And is there any stuff for listeners to find you? Is there a website, social media?
Citizencope.com. Usually email list is probably the best way to find out about the shows. All the other social media stuff that goes down, I'm not super active with it,
but it's out there. Is it just at Citizen Cope, Instagram?
Yep, okay. At Citizen Cope.
Cool.
And
everyone listening, go check out his stuff. Go check out his show if he's in your town. Check out his music videos online. He's a real one, and I'm glad you guys got to meet. Sort of a southern connection, because you're originally from Memphis.
Yeah.
I feel a southern vibe from you, and even DC's like Virginia. There's kind of a southern vibe in DC in a weird way. It's like not the South, but it feels more.
DC is a little bit slower than that. People talk a little bit slower, but I wouldn't consider it southern. DC's kind of has so many different dynamics, but I think it does have, but it's not really
weird because Virginia borders it, and Virginia's like it's a weird thing. It's like right where it kind of starts. Well, West Virginia is the South.
Virginia is technically in the Mason-Dixon line, but I think when you look at the South, people think of the Deep South.
Of course.
So I don't even think Texas is considered the South.
Yeah, no, Texas is its own country. It's its own world down there.
And Florida isn't considered the South for some reason.
Removed.
But if you go to the Panhandle, that's the fucking South.
It's completely the South.
That's as South as it gets.
It is. I didn't notice it.
Oh man, I was like, go to Tallahassee or like what's the other one in the Panhandle? Is it Tallahassee? There's that is the South.
The Floribama,
they got
all the football.
They got the redneck Riviera.
That's it. I like it down there though. Man. Everyone makes fun of Florida. I like Florida. Man. It's just wild. You get it all. You get Latin America, you get redneck, you get everything.
We played a show there, and there was a sign that said, it was like this big complex somewhere, and there was a sign that says, you will be arrested if you throw anything off the balcony. Or if you spit or and I'm like, that's just an interesting sign to have to be in the lobby.
Something obviously happened there. Something bad obviously happened. All right, man. Thanks so much for doing this, Dillard. We love you. Thanks for being here.
Big fan.
Yeah, everyone enjoy enjoy the regalia. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that crispiness with Citizen Cope. Man, that dude, go listen to his music if you don't know him. Guy's a genius with the fucking extremely erroneous penis. So Yeah, check it out. And also want to, speaking of music, play a song for you guys, a lost archive Dirt Nasty song that is nowhere near as good as any of his music. So you guys enjoy the regalia. Suck your own, dude.
Hey girl, it's your man Dirt Nasty. Damn, you looking good as shit. I like that outfit you picked out, baby. I noticed you got your hair done. Your nails look so beautiful. You're perfect, baby. Look me in the eyes. Let's go to heaven together. What we got is oh so nice. Making love like 3 times a night. You cook breakfast, I'm staying in bed. Come back and you give me head. You look good in the morning. And we even got the matching Air Jordans. You and me could be forever. Whisper in your ear, just remember, I don't love you, baby. Girl, you must be crazy. I don't love you, baby. You and me'll never be. No. I don't love you, baby. Girl, you must be crazy, girl. I don't love you, baby. Sorry. You and me'll never be. Yeah, you're such an angel. Get down on my knees and fucking marry you. Let's walk to the sunset. We could have a picnic and then start fucking. Me for you and you for me. We could have some kids and I won't even cheat. Well, maybe just a little. Let's find a girl and I'll jump in the middle. See, we're good like that. And you even help me when I'm writing my raps. We could travel all over the globe. I'll write you a poem and give you a rose. You a perfect 10. And I ain't embarrassed to be holding your hand. You make me feel like a man. But there's one thing you gotta understand. I don't love you, baby. Girl, you must be crazy. I don't love you, baby. You and me'll never be. No. I don't love you, baby. Girl, you must be crazy, girl. I don't love you, baby. Sorry. You and me'll never be. Sugar, I'ma buy you a house. Decorate that shit while I'm chillin' on the couch. We could fuck on vacation and do drugs in tropical locations. I look deep in your soul. I don't love you, but I'm down the road. Let's hit the Bahamas on a cigarette boat, sipping pina coladas. Baby, I die for you. Tattoo of your name on my side for you. I cry to you, you feel my pain. I roll the bill, you chop the cocaine. We fight to have makeup sex, then fight and fuck again. I can't take this shit. Girl, we're gonna be okay. And there's one more thing I forgot to say. I don't love you, baby. Girl, you must be crazy. I don't love you, baby. You and me'll never be. No. I don't love you, baby. Girl, you must be crazy, girl. I don't love you, baby. Sorry. You and me'll never be. Damn, girl, I fucking don't love you so much. I'ma cuddle the shit out of you, baby. Let's just stay in and watch a movie and shit. I'm not gonna love you forever. Come on, it's just me and you. I know you love me. I'ma fucking hug you till you die. Fuck.
Ba-da-ba-ba-boo.